Hello, fellow Americans and taxpayers. I have some more bad news for you about a neo-Nazi named Rudolph Giuliani and a neo-Nazi named Mayor Mike Bloomberg, and a bunch of neo-Nazis called journalists and the American media. I'm here in the Lower East Side of New York City, the most expensive ghetto on earth. I've lived in this neighborhood 18 years, and I have seen nothing improve in 18 years. That's not true. I saw a couple things get better. I saw more things get worse. To qualify that, if you want specifics. Now, what's interesting here is, again, I'm going to show you something that's really scandalous, but I'm on Allen Street. That's scandalous by itself. The fact that I'm on Allen Street is scandalous because I live on Allen Street. Now, I'm one of the biggest critics of government that there is. How is it that I don't have to leave my own street to find earth-shattering scandals by Mayor Giuliani, Bloomberg, and the media? Now, for 16 years, these two scumbag right-wing Republican pieces of shit neo-Nazis fought so they didn't have to obey federal handicap laws. There are wheelchair access laws on the federal books. For instance, you see that? You got to make the curbs wheelchair accessible so the wheelchair can get up and off sidewalks. That's only humane. So why? Now look at this. You're in a wheelchair coming down this street. All right, imagine that. You're coming down the street in a wheelchair. You're crossing the street. You got the right of way. Everything's legal. All right. Now what the fuck do you do? What the fuck do you do? Let's say you're crossing from over there. Now, interestingly, 15 years ago, a guy was on a wheelchair over there. And he said, "Excuse me, sir, could you move the trash can? Because the curb is busted enough that I can almost get up the broken curb as if it was a curb cut." 15 years ago. You can see how much things have changed. They only spent hundreds of billions of tax dollars to, they said, reform New York City. But they didn't. They spent over $60 million fighting the lawsuits that said they have to make curbs wheelchair accessible. There's hundreds of related scandals. I obviously can't get into that. Ask these crooks to debate me publicly. There are so many related scandals you cannot believe it, like with the lawsuits and things like that. Right now I'm just showing you though. You're in a wheelchair. Rudy Giuliani and Mike Bloomberg, both who are in charge of this solely, said, fuck people in wheelchairs. Now right there, that makes them some of the lowest forms of life. That makes them lower than child molesters. That makes them lower than rapists. That makes them lower than mass murderers. When you pick on somebody in a wheelchair, you should be tortured for 100 years and then hung by your nuts. Now look, they can't even ride right around here and go up that part of the car. If you're in a wheelchair, you have a choice to go fuck yourself. Maybe they'll drive down the bike lane in traffic. Is that what they're gonna do? Is that what they should do? That alone, right here, if I had not one other scandal about Giuliani and Bloomberg, this would be enough to hang them and execute them for crimes against humanity. They said people in wheelchairs should fuck themselves. People in wheelchairs should have to drive in traffic. They are monstrous psychopaths. And remember, they spent tens of millions of dollars to maintain this system. They fought the lawsuits fucking 10 years in court, federal court, because handicap groups said, you have to obey the law, you fucking criminals. And Bloomberg and Giuliani said, no, we don't, you fucking assholes. And if we have to spend $60 million of your tax money fighting this losing lawsuit for 10 years and drag it out till we're out of office so we don't have to give a fuck about it, we will. Because they thought it was more important to give money to their friends, their billionaire, millionaire friends, New York Post, Daily News, New York Times, in exchange for great coverage. The New York Times won't write about this because Bloomberg took the money he should have used by law to make these wheelchair accessible, and he gave the money instead to the New York Times. And they, in turn, wrote articles about how great he is, how great he is, how great he is, how he may be one of the greatest mayors of all time. Do you really believe the New York Times editors think that a man who shit on the handicapped is one of the great mayors of all time? No, they don't. They lied. And don't get me started on making the curb cuts accessible. It takes a bit of asphalt. I shot some photographs last week. They've done it elsewhere. You just put a blob of asphalt, and it takes about 8 to 10 minutes. But 16 years, neither one of these two, quote, reformers, as the reporters call them, were able to do that. We're able to reform jack shit. Maybe this is computer animation, right, Bloomberg? Maybe this is computer animation, right, New York Times assholes? No, you have to fight back against these criminals.